Now, while the media have been focusing on the Woolwich attack, there have been a couple of interesting climate articles that haven't received much attention. Why I think we're wasting billions on global warming by top British climate scientists. This article's been penned by Professor Miles Allen. Miles Allen is Professor of Geosystems Science in the School of Geography and the Environment, University of Oxford, and head of the Climate Dynamics Group in the university's Department of Physics. Professor Miles served on the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change as lead author on Detection of Climate Change and Attributions of Cause for the third assessment in 2001, and as review editor on Global Climate Projections for the fourth assessment in 2007. In other words, his reputation, credibility, and livelihood is all about staying on the global warming gravy train. In this article, he actually admits that the globe isn't warming as much as the shit-in, shit-out climate models that have cost you and I thousands in hidden carbon taxes. He admits that global temperatures have been flat for 15 years despite the increase of carbon dioxide into the atmosphere. He does go on to say, to his credit, that the policy of giving rich landowners massive payoffs to build wind farms on their land and giving energy companies massive subsidies to build these wind farms is pointless, and I agree. But being on the climate change gravy train means that he does go on to basically say the shit-in, shit-out climate models will eventually come good in the end, and that eventually we're all going to die as temperatures reach 1,000 degrees Celsius because you drive a car. Rather than wasting billions of stealth carbon taxes on wind farms, Professor Allen suggests us wasting billions in stealth carbon taxes burying carbon. Same shit, different sewer pipe, I say. Either way, he continues to slurp the gravy from the train. The Stern Review on climate change was presented in 2006. It said that climate scientists are right and everybody else is wrong, so we must act now to prevent the boiling of people in the street. Lord Stern even said in January that he got the report wrong in 2006. He believes he got it wrong and that climate change was going to be a lot worse than even he predicted. And this week he seems to have changed his position again. He said at the Hay Festival that global warming is fairly flat. However, as chair of the Grantham Research Institute on Climate Change and the Environment at the London School of Economics, and also chair of the Centre for Climate Change Economics and Policy at Leeds University, he's another one with climate gravy down his front. Here are a few reasons why I, as a climate realist, do not believe a word that comes out of anyone on the climate gravy train's mouth. We were told in 2000 by David Viner, a senior research scientist at the Climatic Research Unit at the University of East Anglia, that within a few years winter snowfalls will become a very rare and exciting event. Children just aren't going to know what snow is. When in fact the opposite seems to be happening. In a little place, climate scientists aren't seen in that much. That's called reality. We've also had ClimateGate, showing that the leading, well so-called anyway, climate scientists were openly fudging the figures to fit their shit-in, shit-out models, rather than reporting what was actually happening with the climate. We had the hockey stick that Al Gore promoted as much as he could get away with, which had to be retracted because it was from a climate model that had shit put into it, and the hockey stick ended up being the shit that came out the other end. We also have that fat, bloated pig Al Gore, who is set to make billions from the global warming scare. I think he owns half of this climate gravy train himself. We have had the same bloated egos saying back in the 70s that we're going into a period of global cooling and that the world was doomed for people freezing on the street. We're seemingly having more and more snow every year, we're having longer winters, and here we are at the end of May and it's just cold. No one, apart from the people who have a gravy interest in global warming, believes it's happening. The weather certainly doesn't support the shit-in, shit-out climate models that climate scientists and governments worship as a new religion and ram down our throats every opportunity they get. But the government are still trying to keep this bubble going by scaring us about something you can't see, smell or touch. then they have the perfect excuse to tax us to death. You have to pay this really high stealth tax. You want to save the world now, don't you? Ed Davey, he's the latest government environmental secretary. He says he wants the EU to set carbon reduction targets to 50% lower than 1990 levels by the year 2030. He said it will be tough, but it's achievable. Ed Davey, who happens to be a tubby little go-along-to-get-along man who is a Liberal Democrat and therefore doomed to be replaced from office in 2015, will single-handedly destroy the UK economy with these carbon reduction targets. Most manufacturing would likely have to shut down, cars would be a luxury, eating meat would probably be a thing of the past. Should he be tried for treason for this kind of ridiculous policy against the UK population? He wants us to shut down our industry over here despite the environmental regulations. So where would all these jobs go after he'd shut down the industry? Probably to China, who have zero environmental regulations. So the net result would be, overall, more carbon dioxide would be spewed into the atmosphere. It's not rocket science, Mr. Davey. Global warming is about taxing us to death and Agenda 21. If the gravy train arrives at its destination and that fat pig Al Gore gets his way, then it's Mud Hut City for you and I, whilst the climate scientists and the likes of Al Gore have a life of luxury. It's time to do some research, people.